Hey Nathan, have you ever wondered what car you should buy if you wanted to outlast your marriage? No, I'm kidding. If you wanted to last forever.
Other than my Suzuki Samurai? Yeah, actually I do run it. Yeah.
Because I've got a list here for you today that has a top 16 cars and trucks that will last forever. And it comes from our friends at IC Cars. They analyzed more than 15.8 million cars sold in 2019 to figure out which percentage of cars lasted over 200,000 miles.
So how are we going to rate these vehicles? How does that work?
Well, they broke them down into various segments, but you know what? I just had our producer rank them from the vehicle that had kind of the lowest percentage of cars that made it to 200,000 to the very highest. But keep in mind when I say lowest, this is still the lowest of the highest.
Right, and there's some surprises on this list.
Yeah, let's get right to it. At number 16, Nathan, is the BMW X3, which is a surprise to me.
That is a surprise. The percentage of cars with over 200,000 miles, 0.2%, but that's still compared to the segment average, twice as much.
Yeah. So if you're, deciding between the X3 or perhaps what's the Mercedes equivalent of that?
The GL something or other, because
one of the GLs. Yes, that's
so many
right.
names.
The GLC.
Right.
Then if you wanted to go over 200,000 miles, go for the BMW X3.
I never thought I'd ever hear somebody say that.
I know. Now, number 15 is a very popular segment. It's the mid-size crossover segment, and it's a Honda of all things.
That's right. It's the Honda CR-V. And that is their most popular vehicle currently. And it is also one of the top selling vehicles in its class.
Yeah, 1.1% of them have gone over 200,000 miles, which isn't, a huge number, but it does represent 2.8 times the segment average.
So it's all the way down. It was already going, there's slippage. So I'm turning all the way, there's the rear end, kicks in. Turning, slipping, there's the rear end, it kicks in. It's seamless, even in conditions like this. I'm slipping, there's the rear end, kicks in, and oh, look at that, almost, the rear end went a little tiny bit out, which I like, but it's not going to be what I would consider a WRX on snow tires. But it does the job. It does exactly what it's supposed to do. And once again, remember, I have the traction control system shut off. So it did really well considering my ham-fisted driving and the fact that it had some of the electronic nannies turned off.
It does, but then there's another vehicle on this list from Honda, and that's number 14, and that's the ACURA MDX.
Wow. 1.6% of them made it to over 200,000 miles, and that is 3.2 times the average of that segment.
There's something interesting. I actually owned one of these things, and at 120,000 miles, I bought it because it had an engine that was replaced at 80,000 miles. Then I sold it to my brother. He kept it for like 3 years, and he sold it with over 200,000 miles.
The question too is, what percentage of these vehicles are initially leased? How are they driven?
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, a lot of these vehicles, these three that we've gone over right now are basically everyday drivers, but I'm going down the list, and some of these are vehicles that may not get driven as much because, they're weekend vehicles. But let's keep going. Number 13 is what used to be and still is one of the most popular cars in the country. It's the Honda Accord.
That's right. Currently, the percentage of cars over 200,000 miles with the Honda Accord, 1.8%. That's 2.6 times more. That's not bad.
And when you think about the other thing, that when we were growing up, cars barely last, let's say, 80,000 miles.
Oh, I know.
And now we're looking at 200,000 miles. And a lot, I think, of this has to also do with the fact that the car may last that long, but at some point it just gets underwater. You know what I mean? It costs more to repair the car than it becomes worth the car, right? Or, it just is ratty and old and still runs, but it's worth so little at 200,000 miles that it's not worth keeping. So, there are a lot of different criteria, I suppose, that actually go into this when people are involved.
Yeah, indeed. And the next one on this list is actually the first of the hybrid vehicles. It's not a huge surprise. It's the Toyota Prius. And it is one of the best-selling hybrid vehicles in the United States.
Yeah, 2% of them make it over 200,000 miles, which is cool for a battery hybrid, right?
Right.
I've heard that those batteries in the Prius will last 250,000 miles.
Yeah, nickel metal hydride.
Yeah. And that's 1.8 times the average of the segment. So, it's, a list so far that's been dominated by the Japanese and one German car.
And one
Surprise,
German.
surprise.
What we're doing right now is we're about to come up to a 6% grade. I'm gonna come to a full stop and accelerate and see how the all-wheel drive does at getting us going on this hill. So now we're gonna take my foot off the brake to the gas and see if we can gently accelerate up this hill. Nice, that actually feels pretty good. I mean, if that was a front wheel drive Prius, there's no doubt there would have been more wheel spin there, and that was almost no wheel spin at all.
And here's the next one, which is no surprise whatsoever, and that is the Honda Civic, which is one of the best-selling vehicles in its class. And it's showing, wow, 2.3% of these vehicles make it over 200,000 miles.
Yeah, which is 5.8 times the segment average.
That's
Wow.
impressive.
Yeah, that's impressive. Now, the next one is not a Japanese car, and it's not surprising. It's the Tesla Model S. And I'm surprised that they've actually gone over 200,000 miles because they haven't been around that long.
No, they haven't, but if you think about it, actually, that is, other than the Roadster, which, well, that's a whole different thing, that is their longest production
Right.
vehicle. And they have been around for long enough to actually get onto this page because the numbers are impressive.
Well, actually, I saw a little caveat here that Zach put down based on cars that make it to 150,000 miles. Yeah.
Right.
So 2.3% of them make it to 250,000 miles. That's 1.9 times the segment average. I don't know what the segment is. What, the Jaguar I-Pace, the e-tron, those are all too new.
Those are far too new, so you can't really compare it against anything.
I smell an electric rat.
Oh, we're going to hear it from everybody, including the fanboys.
There it goes. Oh my God, that's crazy. And that is 60 right there. 2.99. Interesting. So I'm going to give this car to the owner, and hopefully he can get a better time than I did. So yeah,
Not bad.
so
I can't
292, well below 3.
Yeah, that makes me happy.
Yeah,
So
292.
Moving on.
Another Toyota.
Another Toyota product. Hey, at least they're not old Toyotas, right?
Yeah.
But it's the Toyota Avalon. And that is an interesting vehicle. They keep updating it. And even though it is, many people call it the new Buick,
Yep.
it is a good seller for Toyota, but it's not their top seller.
No, and 2.6% of them make it to 200,000 miles. That's 2.2 times the national segment average. You know, I mean, it's a full-size family sedan. It competes with cars like the Charger,
That's not the first car that comes to mind.
Chrysler 300.
Yeah, okay, a little bit more so. But I mean, basically it's a large Camry is what a lot of people would take away from it. I mean, it has a lot of the same components and in many cases the same powertrain.
I guess I'm saying that there's not a lot of serious competition in that segment.
No, not anymore. A lot of those cars have gone away. And here's a surprising one. There's actually an American on this list.
Yeah, the only one from Ford, actually. Well, is it a Lincoln?
Lincoln.
The Lincoln Navigator, Nathan.
Impressive. Lincoln Navigator, for those of you who don't know, that is their large SUV. It is a proper truck. It's based on a truck frame, SUV, proper truck. Yeah, it's doing really well.
2.6 make it to 200K. That's 2 times the average, and that's a big segment. You know, that's like the Suburban, the Escalade.
Toyota Sequoia.
Yeah.
Impressive stuff. Good, well done, Ford.
Yeah, and next one is the only minivan on our list, the Honda Odyssey.
Yep, the Honda Odyssey. Honda and Toyota are really dominating. 2.7%. That is impressive, considering it's a minivan, right?
Yeah, but only 1.6 times the segment average. You know, minivans get used hard. So,
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, so it's pretty impressive that they actually make it to 200,000. And these numbers are still very low until we get to the very last one. I'm not going to tell you what that is. That jumps like phenomenally up there. Okay, we have another Toyota on the list, the Tundra, and I believe not the only truck on the list.
No, it's not the only truck on the list, but the thing about the Toyota Tundra is that they've had a lot of fanfare about both their smaller V8 and their larger displacement V8, both of them having million-mile vehicles out there still running. And they've been using that smart. They've been using that to advertise the fact that their trucks are really reliable.
And it's 2.9% of the time they make it to 200K, 1.6 times the segment average, which is actually pretty impressive considering that you've got the Silverado, the F-150, the Ram 1500, the Titan, all of those in the segment. And I've always been just impressed by this truck's honesty, you know? I mean, you get what you pay for. It's not fancy, it's not particularly technically advanced, but at the same time, it's honest. And I have this feeling that like 20 years from now, when there's so much tech and everything that it's driving us from actually experiencing and driving vehicles, you're gonna miss that. You're gonna miss the simplicity of this thing, the straightforward nature of it.
But there is another pickup truck that outperforms it in terms of these numbers, and that's the Honda Ridgeline.
Yeah, that's a 3% of them make it to 200K, 1.6 times the segment average. Yeah, who would have thought it?
Yeah, but not everybody would call it a pickup truck. It's sort of a sports utility truck, I guess you could call it that. But hey, well done, Honda. I mean, that is pretty impressive considering the fact that it's not that old of a vehicle.
All right, we're getting down to the last four, Nathan, and unsurprisingly, 3 of them are Toyotas.
Gee, I wonder what the next one is.
Yep, it's the Toyota 4Runner. 3.9% make it to 200, which seems low to me because I see them everywhere.
I know, seriously. I think people resuscitate them far more often or just are not reporting the numbers because I've seen a lot of them over 200,000 miles.
Yeah, especially here in Colorado because they're very popular off-roaders. 3.9 times the segment average. And then the surprise, at number 3 is the Audi TT. What the heck?
The other German on this list.
Yeah, 4.1% make it 200. Maybe it's because it's a weekend vehicle. That's 2.7 times the segment average. I don't know what else is in that segment.
Still really impressive. Well done, Audi. And you know, we are talking about a vehicle that shares its components with the A4 and the A3s and stuff like that. So, hey, you know, well done. And the next one on our list is another hybrid, and it's another Toyota.
Yep, it's the Toyota Highlander Hybrid. 4.2% make it 200K. That's 2.1 times the segment average. Good for Toyota, man. I mean, you know, the Highlander Hybrid is another vehicle that is a family hauler. It gets used hard.
It gets used really hard, really good resale value on those vehicles. And I gotta say, you know, really impressed with how many Toyotas are on this list.
And, you know, oftentimes resale value and this list don't correspond, but on this number 1 vehicle, which I'm sure you guys can guess, they certainly do respond. It's a vehicle we've had. It's a vehicle that you know. It's the Toyota Land Cruiser. Dude, it jumps to 15.7%, make it to over 200,000, and I'm betting that those 15.7% also make it to 500,000.
Yes. I actually have a doctor who has one who took it over 500,000. He won't get rid of it. That 3.7 times.
Yeah, the average.
What the average is. That is impressive.
You know, that vehicle and of course, the Lexus version of it are made in a special factory in Japan, and Toyota, you know, makes sure that every bit of knowledge and loving care and reliability they can stuff into it goes into it. So that's why, we bought a 10-year-old Land Cruiser and it was still $25,000.
And that thing ran as tight as a drum.
Yeah.
I mean, there was no flaws in it, and we beat it up. You let me take it off the road.
150,000 miles on it. It felt like it was brand new.
Yeah, and we added crap to it too, just to make it worse, and it was fine.
Yeah, I guess the lesson here is if you don't care about fuel, then get yourself a Land Cruiser.
Get a Land Cruiser if it doesn't matter to you in terms of fuel. But in all honesty, I mean, this list, yes, a lot of you predicted Toyota would be all over this list, and you'd be absolutely correct. But there were a couple surprises, you got to admit that.
Yeah, and you know, once again, you know, cars most likely to reach 200,000 miles. The numbers are still pretty low. I think that has to do more with people just getting bored and trading them in, or getting upside down in them, right?
Well, a lot of people do get upside down on the vehicles.
And the thing about Land Cruisers is they're expensive to repair too.
They are extremely expensive. Not all those parts are interchangeable with other Toyota trucks.
You know, the only thing that was wrong with ours was the little outside side mirror.
Oh yeah, that thing cost us a fortune to replace.
$800.
$800 to replace that
And it
mirror.
had to come from Japan.
Yeah, see, my way would have worked better.
What was your way?
Duct taping something off of something from a wrecking yard onto there. It would have cost $8.
That's a pristine Land Cruiser, except for that.
Granted, my way.
Outside mirror.
Pontiac Fiero mirror. Nobody does that. Hey guys, thank you so much for joining us. We hope you like this list. Please leave your comments below. I'm sure some of you agree with these numbers and disagree with them, and that's what we want to hear.
Hey, before we say goodbye, which of these would you buy?
Land Cruiser.
Yeah?
Yeah, but you know, I really like 4Runners, and I've been thinking about it, and it's really hard for me to say no to one because I eventually have to buy a new truck, a used new truck. So I'm thinking about it.
I'm with you. The 4Runner has, you know, great reliability and it's affordable.
It's just tough as nails.
Yeah. You know what's surprising? Where's the Tacoma?
No Tacoma on this list. Oh, Andre is losing his lunch right now.
Where's the Tacoma? Yeah, where is it? I see cars. Where's the Tacoma? All right, guys. Take care. See you next time.
I'll see you next time.